Markets are pushing higher in response to the ceasefire, but if you actually pay attention to what's going on, I mean, I don't see why the market is celebrating. Nonetheless, the market is pushing, and I want to respect that. If we look at QQQ, 1.38%. I'm just here to bring awareness of, hey, I don't think markets make sense at these levels, and let me explain why. So looking at previous patterns again, especially looking at the day chart, we are pretty much at all-time highs for QQQ. So 539.40 and we're at 539.10. So pretty much already back at all-time highs. Why are the markets pushing? Well, I suppose it's ceasefire, but if you actually pay attention to what's going on, there's these two countries are still attacking one another. It was like Israel still confirmed that there was an attack done to Iran. And even Donald Trump said, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. And then he goes into it of, one of the Israel Defense Forces on X.com. In light of the severe violation of the ceasefire carried out by the Iranian regime, we will respond with force. Now, this is Israel responding to them, and then that's what Trump responded to. The part that's insane to me about all of this is that, remember, markets pushed to new highs because there was a ceasefire. Okay, so it just puts us back at where we were. But now we made new highs because of the ceasefire, but we never made new lows when the war started. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that insane? So we won't sell off when there's war going on, but we will make new highs when it stops. Insane, right? Markets are so irrational. And maybe it's because of what Jerome Powell said today, right? A lot of you guys know that Jerome Powell spoke and testified in front of Congress today. And Jerome Powell stated, the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is the head of the Federal Reserve. I don't care what anybody else that's part of the Federal Reserve says. This is the man in charge, right, of monetary policy. Says that they are not cutting rates because forecast shows a meaningful increase in inflation this year. He also stated that, if we do cut rates, it might be at the end of the year. There is no rate cut in sight. I don't care what one-off Federal Reserve member is saying. No one cares what it is that they say. No one should care because they have no influence. They have no say at the end of the day. This is the head of the Federal Reserve. They're saying no rate cuts. That's not bullish for the market. The U.S. needs to refinance its debt. We're at $37 trillion in debt. It needs to refinance its debt by the end of the year, and it doesn't want to do it when rates are 5.5%. So if there's no rate cut anytime soon, remember, the longer we prolong this, the more of a pressing issue it will become later down the road. But again, I respect it because I respect the trend because it is bullish, right? It's making higher highs, higher lows. There is no break of pattern. So it is challenging to think otherwise that the markets can or possibly will sell off, right? Especially when you look at QQQ, it's like, okay, well, regardless of what has happened the past few weeks, there's been little pullbacks, but no full break of pattern. Doesn't matter if it was the trade war update, still no agreement signed. It doesn't matter if there was war going on in the Middle East or if we bombed Iran, markets would just not sell off, right? And that is the thing that, again, markets have been so irrational for so long that they have now made it back to previous all-time highs. Now the question that you might want to ask yourself is, let me make this very clear. This is not to encourage you to sell your long-term positions. I have long-term positions that I purchased when markets sold off earlier this year due to the trade war, when deals were actually presenting themselves, right? So if we look at the 4-hour time frame, when QQQ sold off to lows of sub 400, right? When Nvidia broke below $100 per share, right? When Apple broke to 120 per share, I'm talking about those, right? When you're invested at a good price and markets do, if your intention is to invest long-term, it's not about you needing to sell here. If you wanted to trim some of your profits, okay, so be it. But that's not the point. That's not the point that I make these videos. The reason I'm making this is the people that are encouraging beginners to buy now. That is what I want you to be aware of, is that what's your reward versus your risk? We're already at all-time highs, and it's not that the market can't make new highs. It definitely can. But at what risk? Because every investment, every trade comes at some form of risk to reward ratios, understanding geopolitical issues right now, understanding the pressing issues in our economy right now with the idea of inflation going up, rates still not dropping, trade war progress, really not actually making any progress. It's just a bunch of hope that's been shared by Trump. No agreements have been signed. There are so many things that are all based off of hope that, again, as soon as they are confirmed not true, or if they don't end up continuing to, be able to work out a deal with China or the UK or Mexico or Canada, do markets retrace? Again, it doesn't mean that you need to short. The whole idea is to have money on the sidelines. So once the market does sell off, you could invest and you could buy those good quality companies, add a deal. That's the biggest thing that I want to preach. Be a deal hunter in a market full of greed. Why are you trying to buy Bitcoin or any of these companies at all-time highs? Because you have FOMO? It makes zero sense. It's not just about your intention, but it's or trying to time the market. It's not about that. It's just also taking into consideration buying in at a fair price, getting a good deal, right? If you're aware that there's, you need a new car or you want a new car and that there's some selling for $40,000, $41,000, but prices tend to drop down to $35,000 to maybe $30,000 during summer because of specific sales, why wouldn't you wait for that? Why are you in such a rush to overpay, right? This is where cash and having cash on the sidelines makes sense. This is not to encourage you to sell your long-term investments. It's about understanding why it's very risky buying at these levels and why it might make sense to actually wait for deals. That is all my videos are for. I don't need you to short. I don't want you to short. I promise you. I know shorting comes at a greater form of risk. The idea is, the thing that I would hate is that a bunch of people buy Tesla at 350 and then it sells off to 250. Buying Nvidia at 140, 150 and then it sells back off to 100. Buying Palantir at 141 and then it drops right back down to 110, 120. Or buying Bitcoin at 110 and then it crashes back down to 50,000. You're never going to be perfect, and we're not here to pretend to be. But you can always be calculated. And again, I don't think it would take someone to do much digging to understand and respect that we are overbought and maybe due for a slight little correction where deals can begin to present themselves and you could begin to buy at a more fair price. Things are always somewhat inflated, right? But nonetheless, you're just looking for deals in a market full of greed. Be a deal hunter. Very simple. So I wish you guys nothing but the best. Just wanted to do my part in keeping you guys up to date. I also wanted to share kind of this video with you guys. I found it to be quite interesting because it shows Trump's actual frustration between Iran and Israel. I actually kind of like his response. They asked him, what do you think about Israel attacking Iran and Iran attacking Israel? And this is how he responded.
That have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
So again, obviously a very emotional response. But to me, the way that I took that is it was very real. It was very genuine. It shows that he's just pissed off that they are not respecting the ceasefire that they both previously agreed to. It's not like they didn't agree to it. They both made it clear that they do agree to it at a specific time, and they both have broken it. So I think that's where the frustration comes from. I can respect that response. And again, it's all about having a level head in the way that things are said. Also, he just sent out, I just don't have time for it, this huge message about supposedly getting impeached by who is starting at AOC, which is Alexandria Cortez. It's stating, you guys have tried to do it before. I bet you, or I challenge you to try to do it again. So there's obviously some insults thrown in there. I'm not a fan of those responses. To me, those are more childish responses, but I think he's just trying to make his followers and supporters aware that AOC is trying to get him impeached once again. So again, it's all about talking about the good and the bad, regardless of who it is or what side it is that you're on. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that's to do well in this country, and hopefully that the politicians that we're putting into power are looking out for most of our best interests, right? At least that's what we hope. So I wish you guys nothing but the best. We'll see how things continue to develop in the market. I hope that earned a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. And if you ever want to watch me trade live starting tomorrow, it's the second link in the description down below. And I'll see you at market open. Take care, team.